The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
And hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Monday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. I'm going to go ahead and put them in the top right-hand corner of the screen so you know where to go if you are in the market for a new or used vehicle. You can head over to, let's get it up. Boop, there it is. Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown, right there. They go the extra mile. You know we try to do the same thing here on this show every single day. We have a lot to get to today, and we have some breaking news. It literally just broke. We've had to have kind of a busy morning here in the, I guess you call it the war room of YSN. But we, as you have maybe seen if you're following our social media accounts, excuse me. If you're not following our social media accounts, go get them a follow. 1, 2. Where have you been for a while? But if you have been following along, you have seen that we have posted that our softball all-star game, which was scheduled for Wednesday, the 26th, this Wednesday, we have pushed that to Thursday. If you look at the forecast, Storm Tracker 21 doing a great job keeping us updated and keeping us kind of in the loop. But if you look at the forecast for Thursday, does not look great. There are high winds, rain, even some hail possibility for Wednesday, and nobody wants to play in that conditions. That's a hail no right there for that. So we have pushed the game to Thursday. We are in the process of getting in touch with all of the players that are committed and making sure that they're still able to come. For the most part, we have gotten a green light for that. We've had a couple of players, unfortunately, could not move from Wednesday to Thursday. But that is just the nature of having to move this game. I'll tell you what, though, I know there are a lot of people that are upset about this or it's a bummer, and I get it. It's definitely not ideal. But we lucked out. And I know that sounds strange because you're saying, what do you mean you lucked out? You had to move the game because weather was going to hit. But I'll tell you what, if it wasn't a terrible forecast and it was kind of like, oh, there's a 30% chance that we might get a thunderstorm, there's a good bet that we would have rolled the dice and just said Wednesday, because moving the game is kind of it's kind of the last option. We don't want to move the game. It's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of logistics. We have to move. We have to get everyone there. We have to get all of our staff there, make sure they're still good to go. It's not exactly easy to just kind of push the game up a day. But the lucky part is that it happened. We had a forecast that was bad enough that we would have said, hey, on Monday we're making the decision to move it. I'll tell you what, if this was one of the things where we had to roll the dice and then Wednesday comes along and we wake up at, and we see, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., in the noon hour, it's starting to really get ugly out. There's no way we were going to be able to push that game one day on the 1 day's notice. So if this would have happened on Wednesday where we didn't know bad storms were coming or we didn't know that the forecast looked so bleak, that game would probably have just been, canceled. There would just be no way to move it on the day of. So all said and done, we got kind of lucky that the forecast was already in the pipeline that Wednesday's not going to look good, and we were able to get a little bit in front of it as much as possible. 2 days notice is a lot better than 24-hour notice, less than 24-hour notice. I mean, imagine if we at same time on Wednesday. So we made that decision at about 11:30, 12 today. So imagine if like 12 o'clock on Wednesday, we had to say, hey, we're going to move it to tomorrow, Thursday. So that would have been really tough. So we got kind of lucky in the sense that we were able to get a little bit in front of it and still have 2 days to kind of find out where we are, who's coming, who's not able to come. And like I said, for the most part, our roster has been given a thumbs up for still being able to be there on Thursday. And there are also some really cool stories about players just kind of moving mountains to still get to this All-Star game, despite it being moved. Some players that are going to be at college visits, some players that are going to be, pushing back, leaving dates for their travel tournament, whatever it may be. There are players that have been like, I will do what it takes to get to this All-Star game. Now, everyone can't do that. We don't hold it against the players that couldn't come. Of course, you got stuff to do. Life gets in the way, whatever. It's unfortunate, but we understand completely because we're the ones moving the game. But at the same time, it's really cool to see the stories of the players that are like, hey, we're gonna kind of do whatever it takes to get there. We've had a couple of stories like that already come in the last hour or so where players are like, we are getting to this All-Star game. And it seems like we have that every year. Baseball and softball. We had a couple of baseball stories like that too, where either kids were playing far away or they pushed back leave time for vacation or whatever it may be. They did whatever it took to make sure they were able to play in this All-Star game. And that just solidifies, I think, and I don't want to speak for DJ, but I bet it does for him too, where it's like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. These All-Star games are good. They are getting done what we want to get done. There's something that kids want to come to, which is what the goal was back in 2019 when we did our first All-Star game. That was basketball. That was the first year we did All-Star game basketball. It's the first sport we tried in, and one of the first check boxes that we wanted to do is this should be somewhere where kids want to go and play. Not like, okay, I'm not going to knock down other All-Star games, but it's almost like you're invited. You almost feel obligated. Like, okay, I guess I got to go to this county All-Star game, or I got to go to this, senior showcase or whatever. But I feel like watching those All-Star games in the past and being a fan and watching players that I've known play in those kind of All-Star games, you're kind of excited to be there, but it's almost like, but now with our All-Star game, you can tell kids want to be there. They're excited for the environment. They're excited for the atmosphere, for the experience, which is what we set out to do when we made these All-Star games. So it's really cool to see players continue to do whatever it takes to get to this All-Star game. So once again, the All-Star game for softball has been moved from Wednesday, which when it was originally scheduled, just one day later to Thursday. The forecast looks much better on Thursday than it does on Wednesday. In fact, let's look at it. Storm Tracker 21 forecast on Thursday looks like this. Once again, shout out to Storm Tracker 21 for being on the ball. Thursday, it's going to be sunny and 75. That is beautiful for softball. Much better than high winds, heavy rain, and possible hailstorms. I will take sunny and 75 over that any day of the week, and I think anyone would too. 75 is also a lot nicer than it was this weekend. I mean, this weekend was kind of uncomfortably hot. I'm not complaining. I like the hot weather, but I know it's not for everybody. So we're not in the 90s anymore, which is a lot more comfortable. So Thursday should be a beautiful weather day. Make sure to get out there. Make sure to be able to come out and watch wonderful softball on Thursday. Like I said, a lot of our roster is still intact. We haven't lost too many people. So everyone that you wanted to see at the All-Star game is still going to be there. Still going to have a lot of fun playing softball one last time for the high school season. With that being said, I want to kind of recap our experience in the baseball All-Star game real quick before we get into Class B action. And we do have a lot of Class B to get to because we have one game that I need to recap from Thursday. I know we usually don't go back in time that much when we do our recaps over the weekend, but there was a pretty big game on Thursday we have to talk about. But before we do all that, baseball All-Star game, I swear it keeps getting better every time we do an All-Star game. It's like we keep learning and doing better. Every time we do an All-Star game, I think, man, we've hit a sweet spot. And then the next one is like, man, we're doing really good. And then the next one. Um, this baseball game, just one, it was perfectly competitive, which is something that, like, we don't strategically put these rosters together. You've watched the draft on ysnlive.com for baseball. Like, it was spin a wheel. It's completely random. We don't have the coaches aren't picking these players. We used to do that. We used to strategically put them together, and we kind of morphed to just a random. You get who you get, and it spit out a very competitive roster, which I think speaks highly to the depth of talent in the YSN family, because it didn't matter who you got, you're getting someone really talented. And it was a great baseball game, 4-3 for about 6 innings. It ended up being 6-3, but a very, very competitive baseball game. I want to give a shout out as well to Bobsine Park for just being an awesome host. The concession stand was peak. I'll tell you what, it was a hot day. We were there for a while. Those ice pops at the Bobsine concession stand, I've never seen them that long. I have the smaller ones. They're like maybe a foot long. You know, you get them, you put them in your freezer. They're nice little personal ice pops, maybe like this thin. These ones at Bobsine Park, I've never seen the big ones. So I was kind of blown away when it came back from the concession stand, and it was like 3 feet long. Oh, well, maybe 2.5, but it was like this long, and it was wider than the ones that you just get as a normal person ice pop. It was fantastic. It gave me about 30 minutes of just cool, refreshing, something to chew on, and then when it started to melt a little bit, something to drink too. The concession stand, the food there is always peak. We know that, but the staying cool in the weather was fun. I just made the mistake of getting Coke as my first drink of choice, and I think DJ and Ty both did the same thing. We were both saying, "Oh man, Coke was not a good choice in the warm weather." If you've ever drinking Coke in warm weather like that I don't know if it's because the dark soda is a little bit more carbonated or you feel the carbonation a little bit more, but like dark soda in heat is not good. It's like satisfying for like the 2 seconds you're actually drinking it and it's going down, and then all of a sudden it hits the stomach, and you're like, I feel hotter than I did before I drank that. So more so than Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is fine. If you drink a lot of Mountain Dew in the heat, though, I will say it does start to affect you. You start to get that kind of upset stomach, but not as bad as Coke. Coke's like one drink, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, what in the world just happened? But they had Powerade, Body Armor. Sprite is peak in the cold. If you're a pop guy, like soda, like me, because I'm just a soda guy, Sprite is peak in cold weather. I'll say that. I mean, in warm weather. It's not as carbonated. It's not as hard going down, and it's still very quenching. And so that's my tangent on concessions at Bobsine Park. We raised a lot of money for the children advocacy program, and we will release those numbers soon once we tally everything. But I'll tell you what, we sold more shirts than we've ever have. We had a huge crowd, so I know our admission gate's going to be pretty big too. Just the amount of people that were willing to open their hearts to a great cause was really awesome. It goes way beyond baseball for these games, way beyond softball on Thursday. Yes, we're there to have a great time with softball. Yes, we're there to watch great softball and baseball. But the charity that gets the benefit of these all-star games just prove that it goes way beyond the sport. We love sports at YSN. I love sports. But sports are not life, right? Life is bigger than sports. And when we get moments to show that to ourselves, I'll tell you what, when you spend like every day at YSN, and I'm not trying to say this like my job sucks or anything. I love my job. But when you spend every day with sports in front of you, writing stories, talking about sports on Running Point, broadcasting games during season, you start to get like sports in your face 24/7. And it's sometimes you need that reminder, like these all-star games, to be like, hey, life bigger than sports. Like sports is fun, sports is cool, sports teaches us a lot of life lessons. But those moments where you go, there are things bigger than sports. And from my perspective, sometimes that gets a little cloudy when you're head deep in sports all the time. So those all-star games, and especially this one on Saturday, like I said, big crowd. Probably one of the biggest crowds I think I can remember being in an All-Star game. It keeps getting bigger. People get more and more excited about our All-Star game. So I want to thank everyone that came out for the All-Star game. I want to thank all the players that were able to come out. We had everyone there, which is really cool. I want to thank our coaches, Coach Morano and Coach Niddle, for taking their time to make that experience really good for the players. We felt it's a lot focused on the players, which is the way the coaches want it, but to not tell you real quick that having those coaches there to make sure the experience is everything it can be in the dugout, and just put just a little bit of structure in there to make sure that the experience goes smoothly for everybody involved. Um, that can't be value. That can't be put a number on value. So I want to thank both of our coaches and their staffs for coming out and helping out with that, and just making sure the gameplay was as good as possible, and making sure everyone got in and all that fun stuff that goes on the field that we as executive members of YSN don't have any control over. Like, we put the coaches in the spots to do all of that, to make sure what's going on the field is as enjoyable as what's going on off the field. So that's always great. We've always had great coaches for all of our All-Star games. So that's going to be real fun. So I want to thank them for that. Thank Bobstein Park and Steve Leslie, Mr. Rourke, all the people up there at Bobstein Park for being amazing hosts once again for our All-Star game. Wouldn't have happened without them. The grounds crew at the All-Star game. We had a Class B baseball game before it that went. It was 8-7, a thriller, and they were able to get that field ready. And we were not that late starting. We were maybe a half an hour pushed back because that Class B game ended a little bit late. But they were able to get that ready really quick, which was awesome as well. There's no better fields crew than Bobstein Park. Everyone there that works for the park was just phenomenal. So once again, what a great All-Star game. It's always, and I said this all the time because it's true. It's stressful until it happens, right? I will be having a stress-induced, headache until Thursday at 6 when the first pitch happens, because then it's kind of let go. I've used this analogy before. We spend weeks and weeks filling up this balloon, getting players there, getting coaches there, making sure the umpires are there, getting organized, making sure our staff's going to be there. All this stuff we do to make sure this goes as smoothly as possible. Blowing up a balloon, and then at first pitch we let it go. And if you've ever had a full balloon and let it go, it just, you have a little control over where it goes. You can maybe control the direction that it goes, but even then it can kind of go behind you. It can go off to the right, go off to the left. But every time we let go of that balloon, it goes in a great direction. And we spend a lot of time blowing up the balloon. And it's stressful until you let it go, right? You let it go and you let it happen. What happens, happens. And it's always a great thing. Love the All-Star games. Can't wait for Thursday. You guys know I'm a softball junkie. Thursday is going to be my time in the sun. The softball All-Star game is like one of my favorite days of the year. So can't wait for that. And I hope you are able to come on Thursday now. We'll circle back to the top. Thursday at 6 o'clock at YSU is the new time for our All-Star game due to weather in the forecast on Wednesday. All right, with all that taken care of, we got Class B baseball to recap. Let's do it. Let's get back into the groove of score recaps and shouting out these players like we do every day here on Running Point. Let's hop into Class B baseball's website, put a full screen up on the screen for you. Like I said, we don't usually go all the way back to a couple of days ago when we do our weekend recaps. We usually stick to Saturday and Sunday. But since the last time I was on Running Point was Thursday afternoon, and there was a huge game on Thursday, we are actually going to start back on Thursday. We're going to talk about one of these games, open up the box score, and see how it went. You can see all of Thursday's scores there, and all the scores for every day can be found on the Class B website under the age divisions. But Thursday, Astro Falcons came into this day with a 1.5, I believe, game lead in the standings. So basically, if they won this game, they'd be up by 2.5 games, which is a big margin going forward. And if the Barons were able to win this game, they'd be, within a half game going into the weekend. So, and the Astro Falcons came out like everything was on the line. They score 3 runs in the first, 2 more runs in the third. They're up 5-0 going into the bottom of the third. And if you know the Astro Falcons, you know if you're down 5-0, that is a very daunting task. But apparently nobody told the new kids on the block that was the case, because the Barons came back with a vengeance. They scored 2 in the bottom of the third, 2 in the fourth, 1 more in the fifth, and then they tack on 1 more in the sixth. It was a consistent onslaught for this Barons comeback. It wasn't just one big inning. It was 1, 2, 3, 4 innings in a row where they tacked on some runs, came all the way back from down 5-0. They win 6-5, and they get, at that point, within a half game of the Astro Falcons. They did it on 5 hits, 6 runs, 5 hits, 1 error. Astro Falcons, 5 runs, 9 hits, but the big number there, 3 errors in this game. And you got to believe that helped the Barons score a handful of the runs that they were able to get across. When you look at the Barons offense, they had 4 RBIs. There were 4 different players that had 1, so no one had a huge productive day when it comes to knocking runs in. Ysn Running Point, though, 1 for 3 with a run scored and an RBI. He's at the top of that order like he has been every year in Class B baseball. He's been one of the staples in this league for a while. We had an RBI and a walk from Nick Parado. An RBI on a hitless day for Mike Del Duca, which tells me, once again, I've said it all the time, when you have an RBI but not a hit, that means you are doing things right situational baseball-wise, which is a lost art in baseball, especially the higher levels. So I love to see these young kids be able to have situational hits and knock in runs. Excuse me. Situational hits and knock in runs, doing their job for their team and putting their own personal stats to the side for a minute. Love to see it. So Del Duca had an RBI and then 2 walks and an RBI for Nate Thomas. So you look at these RBIs. Only Leindecker had an RBI base hit. He went 1 for 3 with the RBI. All the other RBIs came from guys that did not get hits in the game. In fact, Barons as a team had just 5 hits. They had a multiple hit day from Luke Anderton, who went 2 for 3. They got a hit on a perfect day at the plate from Chase Baron, who went 1 for 1 with 2 walks and 2 runs scored. And then last but not least, a 1 for 3 day for Ben Miller, who also had a run scored as well for the Barons. We look at their pitching, which did a good job once the storm settled. That was Corbin Sevick that got the win. He pitched 4 innings, only gave up 2 hits, no runs, struck out 3. He got the win and really shut the door when the Astro Falcons were up 5-0 and didn't let them respond to the Barons' comeback. That was a really good pitching in relief from Sevick. We look at the Astro Falcons offense real quick. 3 RBI day for Blake Primrose. He did everything he could. 2 for 4, 2 runs scored, and then a 2 RBI day from Ari Fox. And I found out just on, and I want to apologize real quick for Mr. Fox. Didn't know until about Thursday. I'm not broadcasting Class B baseball. I just I do the stories based on these stats on the website. So did not realize until Thursday when it was reported that he had a really big, or was it Thursday? Maybe it was Friday. He had a really big hit in the game in our group chat, and his name unfortunately spelled wrong on this website. So I've made the mental adjustment from now on. We will have Ari Fox being credited with the great offense that he's able to put together for Class B baseball stories. He had a big day with a 1 for 3, 2 RBI day at the plate for him. I was rattling my brain on how you pronounce air, A-A-I-R, but his name is A-A-R-I, so just a little bit of a typo. It happens to the best of us. Definitely has happened to me plenty of times. Tyler Vogel pitched for the Falcons. He picked up the loss. He had 3 innings, gave up 2 earned runs on 2 hits, struck out a pair. David Posey also pitched 3 innings, gave up 2 earned runs on 3 hits, struck out 4. So not terrible pitching for the Astro Falcons, just timely hitting, a couple of bad defensive mistakes for the Barons, and they win 6-5. So like I said, at the time, this got them within a half game of the Falcons. And when we go through the rest of the weekend, we'll see that was pretty big. It was pretty big for the Barons. So we'll go from Thursday back to Saturday like we usually do. We do our weekend recap. This is all 18U. 16U has been off since Thursday. They'll be back in action, I believe, tonight. We'll double check that when we're done recapping 18U. But on Saturday, this was all before our All-Star game. It was a big night at Bob Scene Park. We had Dura Ed taking on Avalanche. Avalanche gets the big win, 12-2. Let's check out this box score and see how Avalanche got the job done. 2 runs in the first, 5 runs in the second, 3 runs in the third, 2 in the fourth, and they end up winning 12-2 on 13 hits, no errors. 2 runs, 5 hits, 4 errors for Eagleware. Avalanche's offense had 2 RBIs from Nick Solderich, and they also had 3 RBIs from Ivan Rudiak. Rudiak went 2 for 3. Solderich went 1 for 3 with 2 walks. RBI from David Moyer, who went 3 for 3 with 3 runs scored and a RBI. Solderich had 1 inning of pitching, and he pitched perfect baseball. No hits, no walks, no runs in the 1 inning. 4 innings pitched for Soren Hedrick, who went 4 innings and gave up 2 runs on 5 hits, struck out 6. Those 5 hits for Eagleware, you see them right there. They were all by 5 different hitters. 1 for 2 day for Luke Jordan, 1 for 2 day for Liam Bartlett. You had a 1 for 2 day for Kyler Bourne. Phoenix Marvin had a 1 for 2 day as well. And I call that, 1 for 3 days. Sorry, I don't want to forget about Shane. Shane Sodergren down there, 1 for 3 day with a run scored. So that was the Avalanche's big win on Saturday, 12-2. Let's go to the next one here on the website. Creekside with a 10-1 win over Nightline. We see a couple of dominating wins on Saturday morning. Box score for this one looks like this. Creekside and Nightline scoreless after 2, then 2 runs in the third for Creekside, 1 run in the third for Nightline. It's a 2-1 game. Creekside opens it up in the 5th with 4 runs and then 4 more runs in the 7th. They turn what was a close game through 4 into a 10-1 game final. 10 runs, 13 hits, no errors for Creekside. 1 run, 7 hits, no errors for Nightline. Creekside's offense, as you can see from the hit total, very, very good on the day. Tyler Skeen had 2 for 4 with 3 RBI, a walk, and 2 runs scored. He had a 2 RBI day from Hunter Shields, who went 4 for 4 with a walk and a run scored. 5 plate appearances and 5 times on base. That is how you do it. Tyler McEwen had 2 for 3 a day, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored, and a walk for the offense as well. They managed an RBI from Ryan Drubel and Caleb Hadley. They both went for an RBI. Hadley with 2 walks, double with 1 walk, 2 for 3 day with 1 run scored for double. Hadley also had a run scored for Creekside. Look at their pitching. We had Skeen go 4 innings, gave up 5 hits, but 1 earned run, struck out 7 on the day, and he got the win for Creekside. On to the next. And the Barons came off of their big wins on Thursday and Friday. They stayed hot on Saturday. 9-2, they get the win over the Prospects. 5 runs in the first set the tone. They added 2 more in the second and third, 9-2, 9 runs on 12 hits, 1 error for the Barons. 2 runs, 4 hits, 3 errors for Prospects. Barons offense still hot. Looked like this: 2 RBI from Zyler Friedman, 2 RBIs from Nick Thomas, 2 RBIs from Nate Thomas. They both went for a pair of RBIs. Nick went 2 for 2 with a walk. Nate went 1 for 4 with a run scored. An RBI from Ben Miller, who went 1 for 3 as well. That's an RBI from Ryan Pikutowski, who went 3 for 4 with an RBI and a run scored. Pitching wise for the Barons, the win went to Mike Del Duca, who went 5 innings, gave up no runs on 3 hits, struck out 1. So a contact type of day for Del Duca. But it works if you're able to force weak contact consistently. Definitely a big win for the Barons, and we'll show you why in a bit when we go to the standings here in Class B baseball. Dura Edge and Athletics get into a pitcher's duel on Saturday. Dura Edge gets to win 3-1. They score 1 run in the first. Then it's no scoring until the 6th when Athletics ties things up, and then top of the 7th, the game-winning runs come up, 2 runs scored in the top for Dura Edge. They slam the door, win 3-1. 3 runs, 7 hits, no errors for Dura Edge. 1 run, 4 hits, no errors for Athletics. When we go to Dura Edge batting, we see that Jacob Rind got an RBI and a 1 for 3 day. 2 for 3 day for Alex Zordich, who went for an RBI as well. An RBI and a 1 for 3 day from Andrew Porto. And that would be it for the RBIs for Dura Edge. They also had a 2 for 2 perfect day at the plate from Ethan Fiesel, who had a walk as well. When we look at pitching, Fiesel gets the win. He only went the 3rd inning, though. He came in and shut the door there. The 1 strikeout for him, no runs on no hits. The bulk of the innings was pitched by Parker Dobson, who went 5 2/3, gave up 1 earned run on 4 hits, struck out 4. He did walk 4 as well. Athletics want to shout out their pitching staff because they did pitch well. It was C.J. Frasco got the loss, 6 2/3, gave up 3 hits, 3 runs on 7 hits, struck out 7. So despite the loss, that's a pretty good line for Mr. Frasco, who we know pretty well from his time at Ursuline during the high school season. So once again, Dura Edge with an impressive 3-1 win over Athletics. Let's go to the big one, the big upset on the day, Ballistic getting the win over the Astro Falcons, and this had big stakes in the standings as well. 8-7 Ballistic with the dub. Astro Falcons score 3 in the top, but Ballistic answers quickly, proving that this would be a fight all day. 3-1 after 1 inning. Astro score 1 more in the 3rd, but once again, Ballistic answers 2. So now it's 4-3. Astro Falcons trying to run away with it. 1 more run in the 4th. Ballistic answers again with 2 in the bottom of the 4th. 2 more in the bottom of the 5th. Astro Falcons come back and score 2 in the top of the 6th. It's a tie game going into the 7th, and then Ballistic walks it off. 8-7, the win for Ballistic. A great day for them. 8 runs, 12 hits, 2 errors for Ballistic. We had 7 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors for the Astro Falcons. We look at Ballistic's offense and their big stars. Look at that, a lot of RBIs in this lineup, but 2 of them came from Nick Cipriano, who went to 1 for 3 with a walk and 2 RBI. But then you had RBIs scattered across the rest of the order. Tyler Wright had an RBI. Sam Patton had an RBI. Hunter Wilson had an RBI. And then you also have R.J. Fisher with an RBI. Jake Stashko with an RBI. And then at the top of the order as well, Boyd Kurtz had an RBI on a 1 for 2 day with 2 walks. Pitching-wise, Tyler Wright was really good, got the win. 2 earned runs with 2 hits, 4 strikeouts, no errors. They also got 4 1/3 from Cam Foy, who kept his team in it. 4 runs given up on 5 hits, struck out 4. So I know 4 runs isn't like ideal for a pitcher to give up. You never want to give up any runs, but against that Astro Falcons offense that is liable to go off for 8, 9, 10 runs at a time, holding the 4 in a line in 4 1/3 innings pitch, not a bad day at all. Astro Falcons offense, they had 2 RBI from Will Petty. They also had an RBI from Brody Kuzior, an RBI on a hitless day from Tyler Vogel. They had an RBI from Rowan Urbach as well. He didn't have a hit, which once again shows you the importance of situational baseball, being able to knock in runs without getting the hit, being able to do your job. We're seeing more and more of that in this league, especially the 18Us. That was not the end of the 18U weekend either. They went back at it on Saturday. They'll have a little bit of a break, not be back in action until Wednesday, so 2 days off for 18U. But on Sunday, all but one game got in. The rain kind of came and ruined the last game, so Nightline and Astro Falcons did not get to play yesterday. Everyone else got their game in, so we had 4 games go final before the rains came, or maybe not. Now that I'm looking at it, it says final, but the score's not on this page. So let me just see. No, okay. So final, but not final. I don't know if they just kind of said those games aren't happening and said we're going to put them down as usually if they get canceled, the final button doesn't even pop up. So I just thought, final button there, games to recap. So I'll have to honestly figure out what happened on Sunday during Class B baseball, but nothing there. So that means we'll go right to the standings in 18U after a busy weekend. And as you can see, with the 2 wins for the Barons and the 2 losses for the Astro Falcons, that big loss to Ballistic, we are now tied at the top of the standings. Both teams 17-3. Now Athletics not out of it yet by any means. They're 15-8. 15-6. Excuse me. There's 2.5 back of the Barons and Astro Falcons. Plenty of time to make that up. And then a little bit of a dip the rest of the standings, but Dura Edge having a very good year at 12-8. They're 5 games back. Creekside 6.5 games back. Avalanche is 10-11. You have Ballistic at 9-12. Prospects at 8-13. Nightline at 4-16. Eagleware still looking for their first win. So those are the 18U standings as they stand after the weekend is over. And before we get out of the website, let's go and preview what games are going to be being played tonight. The game scheduled for 16U. 6 games on the docket tonight. A couple of makeup game that's being fit into today too. Prospects and Eagleware kicking things off on scene 1 at 5:30. We have A to Z and Ballistic on scene 2 at 5:30. Also at 5:30, the Astro Falcons taking on Creekside. At 8 o'clock, we have A to Z taking on Eagleware. That'll be a makeup game. We have Athletics and Avalanche at 8 o'clock on scene 1. And then Nightline and Barons are going to be playing on scene 3 at 8 o'clock. So that is your lineup for Monday. I should say today. Today is Monday for Class B baseball. Let's also get you who's going to be broadcasting and what games will be on the network tonight as well. Let's see, go to our player spreadsheet real quick. All right, here we go. Games on the network tonight. We'll have all the games covered. Eric Hughes will be on scene 2, so he'll have A to Z and Ballistic at 5:30. We'll have audio only on scene 3 at 5:30 and 8. That's going to be the Creekside and Astro Falcons. And Nightline and 3B Barons. And then Matt Marr will be on scene 1 for both of their games at 5:30 and 8 as well. So all the games will be on the network tonight for Class B baseball. Make sure to tune in as we get down to the final stretch. The playoffs are coming soon in Class B, and then NABF comes right after. So baseball, not at all done. We're done with the high school season. We put a bow on that on Saturday. But baseball coverage for YSN, not at all even close to being done as we continue into the summer, into the month, last week of June, right? Yeah, last week of June, and into the month of July. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. That'll do it for today's show for here on Running Point We want to thank our sponsor, Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown, for being a tremendous sponsor, and we want to thank all of you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 2 on Running Point. Don't miss it. Don't miss any of the Class B baseball action tonight. And once again, one last time, for someone that was not tuning in at the beginning, I want to remind everyone real quick. The softball all-star game, originally scheduled for Wednesday, has been pushed to Thursday. So we will have that on Thursday, NYSU, 6 o'clock start time, softball all-star game. Forecast on Wednesday looks really bad, so we're just going to push it one day back. And the forecast for Thursday looks beautiful. So good move on everyone's part, and we want to thank our partners over at Storm Tracker 21 for alerting us of this forecast and letting us be able to pivot in time. So that's our last reminder of that, and we will have the draft as well. Don't miss this. The draft for the softball all-star game will be tonight at 8 o'clock. So learn what players will be on what teams. Coach Steve Ward, Coach Dave Kelm from Fitch and Lakeview, respectively, will be our two coaches, and they will have their rosters set at the end of the night. Tune in tonight at 8 o'clock for the softball all-star draft. For Anthony Hartwig, I'll be signing off. I'll be back on Running Point tomorrow from 1 to 2. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and we'll see you